So good day everyone. We are Group 5 composed of the members Ms. Gutierrez, Mr. Hukiriza, Ms. Lapinig, Ms. Legazpi, and Mr. Lastimosa. We will be covering the chapters 13 to 16. So let's start with the chapter 13, Personal Protective Equipment. So let's start with the Rule 849. It means to ensure proper personal protective equipment to prevent exposure to hazards. Rule 850 demands non-metallic hard hats and safety boots for surface mining. Rule 851 mandates safety gear like lamps, belts, and boots for underground work. For Rule 852, it emphasizes high-tension rubber gear for electrical work. 800. So for Rule 853 requires protection for those handling hazardous materials. For Rule 854, it demands eye protection in risky situations. For Rule 855, it mandates life-saving apparel for those at risk of drowning. Rule 856 requires respiratory gear for exposure to harmful substances. So for Rule 857, it stresses upkeep of personal protective equipment. For Rule 858, enforces safety measures for elevated work. And lastly, for Rule 859, it demands protective equipment for employees in confined spaces. So Chapter 13 focuses on personal protective equipment rules, ensuring suitable gear across diverse work settings, surface mining, underground tasks, electrical work, material handling, eye protection, drowning, respiratory safety, equipment upkeep, and precautions for elevated and confined spaces. So the aim is to minimize risk, protect employees, and maintain a safe work environment. So for Chapter 14, Ms. Legazpi will be discussing about that topic. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Ivy Legaspi, and for the continuation of our report, I will be discussing the chapter 14, which is the health hazard control. Under aning nga chapter na duha ka section, the section 1, general, and section 2, emergency, medical, and dental services. So, i-discuss na ko first, of course, ang section 1, and I will just tell you the overview of the rules. So, mauni ang mga rules under this section. First is the Rule 860. This is emergency and occupational health services. Employers are mandated to provide emergency and occupational health service and facilities. This responsibility is based on the duties and responsibilities outlined in Chapter 1, Section 5 of the relevant order. Employers must adhere to the previous rules established in the order regarding the provision of these services. Next is the Rule 861. This is the service contractors and emergency health services. This rule specifically addresses service contractors. Service contractors can make agreements with their principals regarding the shared use of emergency health services and facilities provided by the principal. Next is the Rule 862. This is the health and sanitary inspections. A medical practitioner or safety engineer is designated to conduct health and sanitary inspections. These inspections are to be conducted regularly, and the inspections cover all workplace. So for the last rule of Section 1, Rule 863, it is the minimum requirement for workplace medical supplies. Every employer is obligated to maintain a minimum quantity of medicines, medical supplies, equipment, and medical facilities. So the quantity and types of items to be maintained are specified in Chapter 7 of the Sanitation Code of the Philippines. Employers are required to keep at least the minimum prescribed medicines. So, in summary, these rules collectively establish guidelines for employers and service contractors to ensure the provision of emergency and occupational health services and facilities in workplace. These rules also emphasize regular health and sanitary inspections and mandate the maintenance of a minimum inventory of medical supplies and facilities in accordance with established standards. So let's proceed to the section 2. So mauni ang mga rules under this section. So Rule 864, it is the emergency medical and dental services for different classes of mines and service contractors. For Class D mines and service contractors, the employer shall provide at least one full-time first aider for every shift who may be one of the workers, at least one part-time nurse and doctor and dentist, an emergency treatment room. For Class C mines and service contractors, the employer shall provide at least one first aider in every shift and one full-time nurse, one part-time doctor and dentist, and emergency clinic. For Class B mines and service contractors, the employer shall provide at least one first aid team in every shift and one at least full-time nurse and one full-time doctor and one part-time dentist and emergency clinic. For Class A mines and service contractors, the employee shall provide at least one first aid team in every shift and at least one full-time nurse for every 250 workers for every shift and one full-time doctor in every shift and one full-time dentist and emergency hospital. So a part-time health personnel shall render service for a minimum of 4 hours a day, and a full-time health personnel shall render service for a minimum of 8 hours a day. So for Rule 865, it is the conditions of establishing emergency hospital or dental clinic. An employer may not establish these facilities if there is a hospital or dental clinic within 5 kilometers or 25 minutes travel. The employer must provide standby emergency transport for immediate transfer of sick/injured workers to the hospital. The Rule 866 or the contract with nearest hospital and dental clinic must have a written contract with the nearest hospital and dental clinic for occupational health services. So for the last rule of section 2, Rule 867, it is the responsibilities of occupational health practitioner. The occupational health practitioner is responsible for maintaining monthly health records for each worker. An annual medical report must be prepared and submitted to the Bureau with copies furnished to DOLE, PwC, and the Occupational Health Division Department of Health. So that will be all my report. Thank you.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jershan Biokriza, and I am reporting Chapter 15, titled Identification of Piping System. So in this chapter, it only has one rule, which is the Rule 868, stated that all applicable rules governing the proper identification of materials in piping systems shall conform with the occupational safety and health standards as amended of the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE. Next, Chapter 16. Chapter 16 has 6 sections, which are the general provision, moving equipment and conveyor system, non-moving equipment, leaching operations, cement plants, and lastly protection against the handling of chemicals and other laboratory hazard. So in this chapter, I am only gonna discuss section 1, which is the general provision. Rule 869. Other safety rules and regulations cited elsewhere in this order which are found applicable to plant operations are hereby embodied. Rule 870: Employees shall know the characteristics and the hazards involved in handling chemicals. 871: Employees who are assigned to handle hot or molten materials shall be required to wear fireproof apparel. Rule 872: Employees assigned to work in the bin or tank shall be required to wear a safety belt with a lifeline attached to a permanent support. Rule 873: No employee shall be allowed to look directly into the smelting furnace while in operation. 874: No digestion process shall be done outside the digestion chamber. Rule 875: Wearing of loose clothes shall be avoided and appropriate clothing shall be worn in specific areas. Rule 876: Locations of all equipment, fire extinguishers, first aid, and other shall be known at all times. So sa 876 obvious na required gid na dapat visible ra kabalo ta sa dapit na butang ang mga safety, mga first aid kits, mga fire extinguisher to prevent para matuan din nimo kung may event na mahitabo. Rule 877: All mineral processing plants shall be provided with appropriate appliances to control, suppress, or dilute the emission of atmospheric contaminants. Rule 878: Compressed air shall not be allowed in cleaning the body. And lastly, Rule 879: Proper housekeeping shall be practiced at all times in the plant. So that is all.
My name is Nicolay Kate Bigacheras, and for today, I will be discussing the next few sections of the Chapter 16 of the DNR Administrative Order number 2000-98, particularly the sections 2 to 4. But before anything else, I would like to say that please stay tuned because at the end part of my discussion, I will be having a virtual mind tour and we will check if this mind has really followed all these rules mandated. My name is Nicolay Kate Bigacheras, and for today, I will be discussing the next few sections of the Chapter 16 of the DNR Administrative Order number 2000-98, particularly the sections 2 to 4. But before anything else, I would like to say that please stay tuned because at the end part of my discussion, I will be having a virtual mind tour and we will check if this mind has really followed all these rules mandated by our DNR. So let us start. So for section 2, it is all about the moving equipment and conveyor system. So for the rule 818, no employee shall be permitted to work or undertake repairs on any plant machinery while in operation. So if we have been in a mining site, we can obviously see that whenever there is an operation ongoing, all miners are not allowed to roam around the area. This is to avoid any accidents during as the equipments are being used. So for the next rule, operations, adjustments, and repairs of plant machinery and equipment shall be restricted to trained and authorized personnel. Apprentices shall be allowed to operate, adjust, and repair plant machinery and equipment provided that they are closely supervised. So in this aspect, we can see that not anybody can repair and maintain or do some adjustments in our equipments. It can only be done by the supervised personnel, or it can be still done by any other maker, but it is still supervised with it. So the next rules are Rule 887. Drives and belts shall be adequately guarded and self-draining floor shall be washed frequently to prevent accumulation of oil and grease. The next rule, belt and chain drive units shall A. Be free from excessive accumulation of dusts and other inflammable materials. B. Be well lighted at loading and unloading points. C. Be provided with warning and signal devices at both ends. D. Have no power conductors installed on the clearance side of the belt. And E. Be provided with circuit breakers and switch control. And F. Have the frames of motor and metal cases of control well guarded. Guarded yun siya tanan, no? Mostly. For Rule 889, elevated conveyors requiring frequent access shall be provided with footwalks or platforms along the entire length and equipped with standard railings. This is important, especially kaya pag moagi ang miners na sila'y hawidanan in case na maslip man sila or to prevent falling also. Rule 890, walkways shall be cleared of ore spillage, machine parts, and other materials. Conveyors shall only be used in transporting raw and finished materials. Intended lang yun ang conveyors for raw and finished materials. So ang other materials, mga pails, equipments, even the personnel itself is not allowed para mo gamit sa conveyor as they're transporting machine. So, Rule 892, when a conveyor is in operation, all employees shall be prohibited to climb over or pass under for unprotected conveyor belt, clean and deck pulleys or rovers. So, kailangan when the operation is ongoing, the machine is operating, it has to be cleared, no personnel within the area. So, Rule 893, emergency trip cords or push button switches shall be installed on all conveyor systems and shall always be in good working order. Any defect shall be repaired immediately. So, once there's a defect or unfunctionalities, it has to be reported immediately for the operation to be halted and then i-repair lang na dayon siya. Ana. So for Rule 894, no repair or servicing shall be done on conveyors and in accessories while in operation. So as what I've mentioned earlier, kailangan nato i-halt ang operation. Dili dapat mag-repair if ang equipment is still operating. So for the last rule for the section 2 for the moving equipments, Rule 895, all plant personnel shall exercise extra precaution whenever passing beneath moving belts. No? So as much as ang atong mga structures, ang atong mga equipments are in safety na gyud, kaya na mga railings and guarded na siya, we also have to take our own parts. So kinahanglan nato be careful, extra cautious gyud ta when roaming around the plant. So, Section 3 naman is all about non-moving equipment. First rule for Section 3, it shall be prohibited for any employee to enter through openings located below the bin containing hung-up materials. Adequate measures shall be provided for barring down hung-up materials. So, same lang hapon sa mga rules before sa moving equipment, no? As much as possible, avoid going down or above any materials or mga equipments. The next one it shall be prohibited for any employee to bath or swim in the mill water reservoir, head tanks, water reclamation thickeners, or tailings pond. This is important because these waters are already mixed with chemicals that is hazardous for our own body. So, dili siya pwede kaliguan. Platforms and railings shall be kept in safe conditions, especially kay dira mag-aagi ang atong mga miners, ang atong mga engineers. So, it has to be kept safe good and it has to be kanang checked good kung basig na napoy repiro nun. It shall be prohibited to direct stream water to electric power lines, electric motor, switch gear, welding machine or piece of an electrical equipment to avoid any electrical hazards may tabo because it could spark electrical hazards. The last rule for Section 3, it shall be prohibited to store personal belongings on switch cabinets, no? So, switch cabinets intended for anything but your personal belongings. So, for Section 4, it is all about leaching operations. The agents for leaching plants shall be handled with reasonable precautions. Container labels and instructions shall be read and followed carefully. So here are the rules. Extra precaution shall always be maintained in mixing leachants with water. Mixing tank shall be constructed to direct dusts and gas away from the operator. The feed water entry shall be provided with a positive means of preventing any backflow. All working areas used for the collection of leachant solution shall be provided with sufficient mechanical ventilation. So air flow is very important. Areas where leachants and other chemicals or substances are mixed and handled shall be provided with a safety shower, eye wash and hand wash facilities, and fresh water wash down hose. So para ni pang cleanse at or sa substances or sa containers. So next, employees handling leachant solutions or open containers during normal mixing, container maintenance, and in-situ leaching procedures shall wear the necessary personal protective equipment. This is to protect them from being in contact with these dangerous substances or chemicals. Rule 911, leachant containers shall be washed, clean, or otherwise decontaminated before they are removed from the mixing area. Washed water shall be isolated or conducted to the mill or tailings circuit. This is to prevent a mixture of kanang bitong mga chemicals mga naghalo-halo na. So, kinahanglan nato siya away, isolated ang ihang pagwash. Ang water nga gigamit sa pagwash. Rule 912, inspection, cleaning, and repairing of tanks and other equipment used for solutions of operations shall be performed under careful supervision of properly trained workers, and provided further that no personnel nor any items has been left inside the tank after undertaking maintenance job. Monitoring wells or trenches shall be placed below an earth tank, tailing pond, or leach pond containing cyanide and other deleterious chemicals in order to detect any possible solution loss that may contaminate groundwater. Watering the wells or trenches shall be sampled daily and analyzed, and the results recorded. So, ang mga wells nga diayon nato sa trenches na nasa palibot, no, kay kinahanglan din siya isample daily para may bawaan nato kung safe ba gihapon siya. Rule number 914, cyanide shall be stored to prevent it to be exposed to acid vapors. So this is the last ones, the last few rules for section 4 of the chapter 16 of the DAO number 2000-98. So for rule 915, aqueous cyanide and other deleterious solutions shall not be mixed by air agitation method. At all points in cyanide leaching operations, the pH level shall be monitored and maintained not lower than 9.5. Kaya pag lower siya 9.5, anything could happen. It could be dangerous na. Fire extinguishers containing carbon dioxide as fire extinguishing agents shall not be used on, in, or near an area of cyanide storage, because collision of these chemicals can cause or can spark fires. So, in heap leaching operations, this shall be governed by A, the competence and stability of the heap material such that the danger of sudden slide is avoided. Leach pods are appropriately lined to avoid seepage of solutions that may contaminate the groundwater. Unauthorized persons are prohibited from entering the heap leaching area. Solution ponds are appropriately lined and enclosed with at least 2.4 meters per meter fence. And E, hazard study shall be required to determine the best options for safe operation and its health impact to the employees. Rule 919, in areas where cyanides and other toxic chemicals are used, appropriate warning signs shall be provided and posted. Therefore, kada lingi nato sa plant kung asa man ganita sa minahan, there should always be signs in order to warn, to inform ang mga miners kung saan ni siya, para asa ni siya, etc. Rule 920, monitoring devices so far as practicable as possible shall be provided to detect leakage in solution ponds. It is important because ang naa naman sa mga solution ponds are mixed na siya with chemicals that is harmful not only sa mga tao but to the environment as well. That's why leakage should be prevented. Dili siya pwede nga mulik o moabot bisan asa kay it could further cause more harm na siya. So for the last rule for this section, male personnel shall be required to know the antidotes of cyanide and dangerous chemicals. An antidote shall be provided in the area where they are handled. The instructions shall be posted kay wala kita kay balo say mahitabo. So it is better to have these kinds of antidotes to kuan at least dili kay dako ang impact in case man lang na ay mga leakages or na ay mga mga mahitabo nga wala dili nato gusto mahitabo. So that would be all for the sections 2 to 4 lamang. The others will be discussed by the next. So for this part, mag-state lang ko isa ka accident no nga na-found nako sa internet which involves a conveyor belt. Nga isa sa gi-discuss nato, primary nga gi-discuss nato kagaina. So, a few background lang about the mining site. So, the Black Jewel Panther Mine is an underground coal mine located near Cumberland, Harlan County, Kentucky. The mine started producing coal from the Owl Coal Seam on September 1, 1999. The mining height is 5 1/3 feet. Grabe kamubo na kayo siya. And the mine is accessed by one main portal location. At the time of the accident, the mine employed 56 underground miners and 3 surface miners. So 59 kabuok tao na asulod sa mine nga 5 1/3 lang ang iyang kataas. The mine produces coal on 2 production shifts, 5 to 6 days per week. Maintenance is performed on the 3rd shift. So dito pa lang daan medyo nabati na nimo nung 5, imagine na 5 1/3 na height. Tapos na 59 katao sa sulod working. That is very dangerous na good. So, overview na dayon ta sa accident. On Wednesday, March 28, 2018, at approximately 2:15 a.m., Hubert Grubbs Jr., a 29-year-old belt foreman with 8 years of mining experience, was fatally injured when a conveyor belt on which he was working started unexpectedly. Grubbs became entangled in the conveyor belt clamp ratchet chain and was fatally injured when the conveyor belt started. At the time of the accident, Grubbs and a co-worker were splicing the conveyor belt. So, ilang giayo ang conveyor belt at 2:15 a.m. in the morning. Murag ilang i-connect ang belt sa conveyor and when nahitabo ang accident because ang operator sa conveyor belt nag-allow siya og repair and maintenance even before doing the lockout, tag-out procedure para ma-ensure na ang katong makina dili na gyud siya mo function kaya ang electrical power gi-off na wala man na nahitabo. So nilihok gid ang conveyor belt during sa ilang pag-maintenance just na entangled si Grabs dito, fatally injured siya. Unfortunately, nion na naggamit sa kanang marag remote sa conveyor belt mo tong ni-under siya unya katong ni-on pa gyud sa conveyor belt kay dili siya kanang properly trained gyud. So, mao to. Sadly, kaning mga hitabo is really happening in the mines, no? Pero as much as possible, we do not want this to happen. Mo nang nag-engage gyud ta safe and healthy nga mga safe and health nga mga trainings and seminars, devotion, etc. Pero unfortunately for Grabs gyud, injured gud siya. And so mo to one example sa conveyor belt, no, dangerous, very very dangerous. That's why we really have to be very very careful about. So for this part of my report, I will be doing the virtual mine tour na. So welcome to Eagle Gold Mine. So magkuha ng tanong lang tanga na ata diri So this is a virtual mine tour, and as you can see very big yun siya og makita gid nimo tanan if you want to diri. Pero mag-focus lang ta sa atong gidiscuss game na which it involves mga moving o non-moving equipment o glitching na mga reagents, etc. So dira lang tanaw. So asa dirita sa overland conveyor daw kay for sure naman diri ang atong mga ay makita naman nato diri ang kuano. Ay, there you go. Conveyors, as what I've mentioned earlier, no, according to DAO 2000-98, the conveyors or an equipments shall be guarded. Guarded na siya, no? As you can see, makita na ito nga. Guarded na siya. And during the time na nag-operate, as much as possible, there shall be no minors in the area. Makita na ito despite how long the conveyors are, they manage, even there's mga signs na makita na ito para lang murag warning na siya nga no enter, no entry na. So despite how long the conveyor is, ilagid na ang giguard. Kaya para gihapon kung atong buto naon para gihapon na sa safety sa kuan sa atong miners good. So let's look for another sa kuan daw ta dito ta sa mga equipments and mga trucks asa man nato makitaan be. Look how big mura siya. Maka-inspire kay magtanaw mga ingani nga kuan oy kay tana sunod kami na pod makaanhig mga ingani. Cheers lang. Hopefully soon. Dito sa secondary crusher daw tanaw naton sinadiri kung gi-follow ba ni gihapon nila. What is this? Secondary crushers nila diri. Watan lang itong load kamay. Pasensya na good because hinay kayo akong data. There you go. Even here, makita na to ang mga conveyors. Dili lang siya guarded. Naging siya support. Na siya mga support dari especially kaning elevated na mga they follow the DAO gyud, no? 2000-98 kay na may mga supports ang ilahang mga ma-zoom pa ba na to siya? Dili na siya ma-zoom. So, ingani na, even here, you can see the conveyors are heavily guarded, which is so nice to look at kay gusto pa sila ensure pa nila ang safety of everybody. Dito sa heap leach factory kay na-mention mo pud kagaina or facility rather. Na-mention mo pud kaganina nga atong leaching operation shall be mga labels, there's a few background, you can look at it or you can read for us a bit knowledgeable nga simulation or virtual mine tour kay maka-learn tapos yung mga videos, you can link on the videos kay gina-explain pa nila on how these things fashion, no? Bleaching, so man ang ilahang peeling sponge na. Ang bleach, heat bleach facilities at magtanaw tag mga pictures. Let us observe kung gi-follow ba nila. What is this? Kailangan ang as mentioned ang mga ponds no kay measure gapon nila kung nabay mga ay ikuan nila kung nay mga seepages kay para mahibaw-an pud nato para di na siya moingo kay kung mo-seepage siya or mo-overflow ni luoy kayo ang environment kay hazardous chemicals na ba it could cause damage na. So this is an example of kanang they are operating, no? As you can see, wa tay makita nga miners nga nagtuyok-tuyok, plainly the operators na lang and some kanang ilang mga mo-support nga men kay to avoid accidents and kuan. By the way, wadi ko nag-on og camera because gitay na ko siya ganina and grabe ka lag gyud kayo. So nag-off na lang ko to off my camera na lang. So na even these can be so dangerous. Imagine na yung mga tao diri underneath these mga conveyors or mga transporting equipments. So mamatay gyud simbako palayo ayo lang gyud in town. Ang mga mabagsakan ug mo-collapse na siya kalit. No, importante gyud nga before ang mga electrical circuits nila gamit nila sa mga range or sa ilang kuan, they should be maintained good to avoid kuan fires, electrocution, electric nga mga hazards, to avoid electrical hazards, no. Yung gagmay kayo sila dako gid kay ni nga ilang nga mga area, no. Sis, mo ni. So while working, dili pwede nga na mga tao peaceful. Imagine puhon kita mag-ingani makaduol na dayon sa mga kuan ingani no puhon maka-amnesia gyud. Hopefully so here is the link for the virtual mind tour so you can open this and do your own tour na lang, no? So thank you so much for listening and I hope you learned something from me, and the next parts or the last few sections for our report will be presented by the next reporters. Thank you.
Chapter 16, Plant Operations. Section 5, Cement Plants. Rule 922, other safety rules and regulations cited elsewhere in this order, which are found applicable to cement operation are hereby embodied. So in this rule includes all relevant safety rules and regulations from other sources that apply to the cement plant's operation. Rule 923. No employee shall be required to enter any hot and confined working area for any purpose rules any purpose unless temperature inside has reasonably cooled and declared safe by the safe engineer for the said employee enter and work. Uh, this rule, employees should not enter hot and confined spaces unless the temperature has cooled and the safety engineer declares to say it's safe. Rule 924. Refractory bricks shall not be tossed by one worker to another during rebricking works. In this rule, workers are not allowed to toss refractory bricks during rebricking activities. Then 925 rule. Jack supports for an uncompleted brickwork rings shall be properly secured before repositioning the kiln. So the in Rule 925, before moving the kin, make sure that jack supports for incomplete brickwork rings are securely in place. In Rule 926, in that rule, ensure there's no enough space for movement during declogging in areas like preheater cyclones, calciner, and conditioning tones. Rule 927. Use suitable tools to view inside the kin through the inspection hole. Then in Rule 928, prevent the escape of hot gas and dust by securely fastening all cooler covers. The meaning of the Rule 929, sufficient provide sufficient ventilation in confined areas, such such as skins, ball mills, coolers, preheaters, and calciners. Rule 930 means that use carbon impregnated filter bags in coal mill dust collectors to avoid explosions from static electricity. Then Rule 931, immediately remove and dispose of any accumulated coal dust spillage. Then rule number 932, maintain the recommended concentration of carbon monoxide in kin flue gas to prevent explosions as advised by the electrostatic precipitator or EP manufacturer. So rule 933, no one along with equipment and tools should enter the kin before rotating it during repairs and maintenance for safety reasons. Chapter 16, Plant Operation, Section 6, Protection against the handling of chemicals and other laboratory hazards. So in Section 6, Rule 934 states that take I mean the meaning of this rule is to take extra precautions when handling strong lime, pulp, and chemical solutions. Rule Rule 935, Safety gear for handling mill reagents. Anyone handling mill reagents like frauders, frothers, collectors, cyanide, or other toxic chemical must wear a chemical respirators, gloves, and protective equipment. Rule 936. Only trained and authorized individuals should handle chemicals to ensure safety. That's the meaning of the rule of 936. Rule 937. Bottles containing acid or dangerous chemicals shall be clearly labeled and stored properly to prevent breakage or spillage. So in Rule 937, proper labeling and storage of dangerous chemicals. This means that bottles containing acid or dangerous chemicals must be clearly labeled and stored securely to prevent breakage or spills. Rule 938. This means that when diluting acid with water, pour the acid slowly into the water while stirring. Never pour water into the acid. Next is the Rule 939. This means that safety measures for breaking pressurized lines. By break, Before breaking a line or container under pressure, isolate it, and clear the area of other people. Rule 940. Containers, pipers, or hoses which has had been used in handling and conveying toxic materials shall either be properly disposed, destroyed, or clearly marked. So this means that containers, pipes, or hoses used for toxic materials should be disposed of or marked for safety. Rule 941 means that take measures to prevent damage to structures and equipment in areas where corrosive liquids, gases, or, or vapors are present. In 942, and handling, using, and transporting of corrosive or hot liquids in bulk shall be done by means of gravity, com- compressed air, or inner gas displacement or pressure pumps with the respective system extending to the point of use. So this means that corrosive or hot liquids in bulk should be handled by means of gravity, compressed air, inert inert gas displacement, or pressure pumps. So Rule 943. In Rule 943, this means that use pumps, tipping appliances, or similar tools to empty receptacles with corrosive or hot liquids lacking drain cocks. 944. In this rule, when transporting corrosive liquids inside buildings, prevent the escape of fumes using conveyors or special conveyances. In Rule 945, this means that keep containers securely closed except during content extraction. And in Rule 946 means that maintain the floors of rooms with corrosive liquids as dry as possible. Rule 947. In this rule, cordon off areas with spills of corrosive liquids until they are removed. Then Rule 948, spills of corrosive acid and alkalis should not be absorbed by organic materials but flushed out with water or neutralized. Rule 949. Where corrosive liquids are handled or used, clear running water shall be readily accessible to all employees. In this rule, this means that ensure clear running water is readily accessible where corrosive liquids are handled or used. So in Rule 950 means that handle handle explosive and fire-prone chemicals or the red label with caution following permits issued by authorities. Rule 951. Storing liquid ammonia should not be exceed 3/4 full. Then in 952, store flammable liquids and gases in cool, well ventilated areas. Rule 953. This means that before cutting or welding containers of flammable materials, ensure they are opened, drained, and washed thoroughly. In Rule 954, prohibit smoking in open flames near storage tanks containing reagents. Next is the Rule 956. In Rule 956, this means that install fume hoods over hot plates and analyzers where toxic gases may be emitted. In Rule 957, equip vessels used for chemical treatment with hoods or other devices to prevent harmful fumes from entering the air. In Rule 958, this means that is to ensure proper ventilation in fire assay rooms where metal samples are analyzed. In Rule 959, only trained and authorized individuals should be involved in mixing chemicals. In Rule 960, this means that locate fuel system of furnaces and burners properly with appropriate shut-off valves. Rule 961. In this rule, provide appropriate chimney connector pipes for the entire length of assay furnaces. Next is the Rule 962. In Rule 962, prohibit water installations near places where molten metals are handled. In 963 rule, this means that keep floor areas clean and clear when working near or carrying molten metal. Rule 964. In Rule 964 means that exercise caution when quenching hot metals, quenching, quenching hot materials. In Rule 965 means that keep molds for molten metals dry before using them. In Rule 966, proper storage and labeling reagents. Store, segregate, label, and pile reagents and chemicals properly. Rule 967. Chemical containers shall not be exposed or left open. Emptied containers shall be decontaminated and neutralized or diluted before disposal. In Rule 967 means that close and decontaminate chemicals containers and never leave them exposed. So in Rule 968 means that prohibit eating or smoking after handling materials unless hands and face are properly washed. In Rule 969 means that inspect acids and chemical containers for leakage before transporting them. Lastly, in Rule 970 means that during transport, keep the acids separated from cyanides. That's all. Thank you.